The Library of Alexandria, the knowledge that vanished. Imagine a building that contained all the knowledge of the ancient world, every scroll of philosophy, science, literature, and history gathered in one magnificent institution. A place where the greatest minds of antiquity came to study, debate, and discover. This was the Library of Alexandria, the most famous library in human history, and its destruction represents one of humanity's greatest intellectual losses. At its height, the library may have contained over 400,000 scrolls, representing the accumulated wisdom of Egyptian, Greek, Persian, Jewish, and countless other civilizations. Works that we can only dream of today once sat on its shelves. Lost plays of Sophocles, missing books of Aristotle, scientific treatises that could have advanced human knowledge by centuries. And then, through a series of disasters spanning several centuries, it was all gone. The flames consumed not just papyrus and ink, but the very thoughts of our ancestors. What secrets died with the Library of Alexandria? What might humanity have achieved if that knowledge had survived? Welcome back to Mysterious History. Today, we mourn what was lost and investigate what truly happened to history's greatest repository of knowledge. The Founding, 315. The story of the library begins with Alexander the Great, the Macedonian conqueror who built an empire stretching from Greece to India. In 331 BCE, Alexander founded a new city on the Mediterranean coast of Egypt, naming it Alexandria after himself. Though he would die just 8 years later, his city would become one of the greatest in the ancient world. After Alexander's death, his empire was divided among his generals. Egypt fell to Ptolemy, who established a dynasty that would rule for nearly 300 years. Ptolemy and his successors sought to make Alexandria the intellectual capital of the world, and the library was central to this ambition. The library was part of a larger institution called the Museion, or Temple of the Muses, which functioned something like a modern university. Scholars received salaries, free housing, and meals, allowing them to dedicate themselves entirely to study and research. The arrangement attracted brilliant minds from across the Mediterranean world. Ptolemy I began the collection, and his son, Ptolemy II, expanded it dramatically. According to ancient accounts, the Ptolemies were obsessed with acquiring scrolls. Ships arriving in Alexandria were searched, and any scrolls found were confiscated, copied, and often the copies were returned while the originals were kept for the library. The collection, 630. What did the library contain? Ancient sources provide tantalizing hints. The library is said to have housed the original manuscripts of the great Greek dramatists, Aeschylus, Sophocles, and Euripides. The works of Aristotle, including many that have since been lost, were stored there. Scientific treatises, mathematical proofs, historical records, and religious texts from numerous civilizations filled its shelves. One of the library's greatest achievements was the creation of the first comprehensive catalog of Greek literature. Callimachus, a poet and scholar, compiled the Pennaches, a massive bibliography that organized the library's holdings by genre and author. This work, though now lost, became the foundation for all subsequent cataloging systems. The scholars of the library made significant original contributions as well. Eratosthenes calculated the circumference of the Earth with remarkable accuracy using geometry and observations of shadows. Aristarchus proposed that the Earth revolved around the Sun nearly 1,800 years before Copernicus. Euclid wrote his Elements of Geometry, which remained the standard textbook for over 2,000 years. As the collection grew, A second library was established in the Temple of Serapis, known as the Serapeum. This daughter library served as an overflow facility and provided public access to texts that the main library reserved for scholars. The Serapeum became a magnificent institution in its own right. Ancient writers described it as one of the most beautiful buildings in the world, adorned with gold, silver, and precious stones. Its collection eventually grew to include hundreds of thousands of scrolls. Together, the two libraries represented the greatest concentration of human knowledge ever assembled in the ancient world. Scholars traveled from across the known world to study in Alexandria, and the city became a melting pot of cultures and ideas. The first destruction, 12 minutes. The story of the Library of Alexandria is shrouded in mystery and debate. Multiple events may have contributed to its destruction, and historians continue to argue about which was most significant. The first major damage may have occurred in 48 BCE, when Julius Caesar was besieged in Alexandria during the Roman Civil War. Caesar ordered his troops to set fire to the Egyptian fleet in the harbor. According to some ancient accounts, the fire spread to warehouses near the harbor that contained scrolls, destroying tens of thousands of them. However, the extent of this damage is debated. Some scholars believe only books awaiting export were destroyed, not the library itself. Others argue that the destruction was more extensive. The ancient sources are unclear, and modern historians interpret the evidence differently. What is clear is that the library continued to function after Caesar's time. Cleopatra, the last Ptolemaic ruler, reportedly received 200,000 scrolls from Mark Antony to replenish the collection. Scholars continued to work in Alexandria throughout the Roman period. The Christian era, 1515. As Christianity spread through the Roman Empire, tensions between the new religion and the old pagan institutions intensified. The library and the Serapeum, associated with pagan learning and worship, became targets. In 391 CE, the Roman Emperor Theodosius I issued decrees ordering the destruction of pagan temples throughout the empire. In Alexandria, a Christian mob led by Bishop Theophilus attacked the Serapeum. The temple was destroyed, and whatever scrolls remained in its library were likely lost. Some ancient sources attribute the destruction of the main library to this period as well, though others suggest it had already declined or been destroyed earlier. The truth is difficult to determine, as few reliable sources from this period survive. What is certain is that by the end of the 4th century, the great intellectual institution that had flourished for over 600 years had ceased to exist in any meaningful form. The Arab Conquest, 18 minutes. A later tradition attributes the final destruction of the library to the Arab conquest of Egypt in 642 CE. According to this account, the conquering general Amr ibn al-As wrote to Caliph Omar asking what should be done with the books in the library. Omar reportedly replied that if the books agreed with the Quran, they were unnecessary. If they disagreed, they were heretical. Either way, they should be destroyed. The story claims that the scrolls were used to heat the city's bathhouses for 6 months. Modern historians generally dismiss this account as a later fabrication, probably created during the Crusades to discredit Muslims. By 642 CE, the library had likely been gone for centuries. The story first appears in sources written over 500 years after the supposed events. Nevertheless, the account persists in popular imagination, illustrating how the destruction of the library has become a symbol of intellectual loss and cultural destruction. What was lost? 20 minutes, 30 seconds. The true tragedy of the library's destruction lies in what was lost. We know that ancient literature was far more extensive than what has survived, and the library contained much that we will never recover.
Of the roughly 130 plays by Sophocles, only 7 survive complete. Aeschylus wrote between 70 and 90 plays. We have 7. Euripides wrote approximately 92 plays. 18 survive. The lost works of these dramatists alone represent an incalculable cultural loss. Philosophical works suffered similar fates. Aristotle wrote dialogues that were considered masterpieces of prose. All are lost. The works of numerous philosophical schools survive only in fragments or summaries. Entire systems of thought that influenced the ancient world have vanished. Scientific knowledge was also lost. We know of astronomical observations, mathematical discoveries, and technological innovations that were recorded in
Greek fire, the ancient superweapon. In the 7th century, the Byzantine Empire faced annihilation. Massive Arab fleets threatened Constantinople, the imperial capital, with overwhelming naval superiority. The city seemed doomed to fall, and with it, the last remnant of the Roman Empire. But the Byzantines possessed a secret weapon so devastating that it turned the tide of history. They called it Greek fire, and it was unlike anything the world had ever seen. A liquid flame that could not be extinguished by water. Indeed, it burned even more fiercely when wet. It clung to ships, soldiers, and everything it touched, consuming them in an inferno of destruction. For centuries, this weapon defended the Byzantine Empire against enemies who had no answer to its terrifying power. And then, the secret was lost. Despite the importance of Greek fire, the formula was guarded so carefully that when the Byzantine Empire finally fell, the knowledge died with it. Today, we can only guess at what this fearsome weapon actually was. Welcome back to Mysterious History. Today, we investigate the ancient world's most devastating secret weapon. The crisis of the 7th century. To understand Greek fire, we must first understand the desperate circumstances that produced it. In the 7th century, the Byzantine Empire was fighting for its very survival. The newly united Arab forces, inspired by the new religion of Islam, had erupted from the Arabian Peninsula and conquered vast territories with astonishing speed. Syria fell in 636. Egypt, the breadbasket of the empire, was lost by 642. North Africa followed. The Arab armies seemed unstoppable, and their attention turned toward the greatest prize of all, Constantinople itself. The Byzantine capital was virtually impregnable from land attack, protected by massive walls that had never been breached. But the sea offered a different approach. If the Arabs could gain control of the waters around Constantinople, they could blockade and starve the city into submission. In 674, a massive Arab fleet appeared before Constantinople, beginning a siege that would last 4 years. The Byzantine navy was outnumbered, and defeat seemed certain. What happened next would change the course of history. The invention. According to Byzantine sources, a refugee named Kallinikos arrived in Constantinople from Syria, bringing with him a secret that would save the empire. Kallinikos, described as an architect or engineer, had developed a formula for a new type of incendiary weapon. The Byzantines called it liquid fire or sea fire. Later generations would know it as Greek fire. Whatever its name, its effects were devastating. The substance could be projected from bronze tubes mounted on the prows of ships, spraying enemy vessels with sticky, burning liquid that could not be extinguished by water. Indeed, it burned even more fiercely when wet. It clung to ships, soldiers, and everything it touched, consuming them in an inferno of destruction. For centuries, this weapon defended the Byzantine Empire against enemies who had no answer to its terrifying power. And then, the secret was lost.
Despite the importance of Greek fire, the formula was guarded so carefully that when the Byzantine Empire finally fell, the knowledge died with it. Today, we can only guess at what this fearsome weapon actually was. Properties of Greek fire. From contemporary accounts and later descriptions, we can piece together the remarkable properties of Greek fire. The substance was liquid and could be projected through tubes or siphons. It ignited upon contact with the enemy or possibly upon exposure to air. Most remarkably, it could not be extinguished by water. In fact, water seemed to intensify the flames. The only substances said to be effective against Greek fire were sand, strong vinegar, and old urine. This suggests a chemical reaction involved in the burning process that water could not interrupt. Greek fire was deployed using specialized equipment called siphons. These bronze tubes were mounted on ships and could project the burning liquid for considerable distances, some sources claiming up to 50 feet or more. The sound of the fire being projected was reportedly terrifying, adding psychological impact to its physical destruction. The weapon was also used defensively, projected from the walls of Constantinople against besieging forces. Smaller, portable versions may have existed for use by individual soldiers, though these are less well documented. Historical impact. Greek fire proved decisive in numerous military engagements over the following centuries. In 718, another Arab fleet arrived to besiege Constantinople. Once again, Greek fire devastated the attackers, destroying much of their fleet. Combined with other factors, including a harsh winter and Bulgarian attacks, the defeat ended Arab ambitions to conquer Constantinople for centuries. The weapon also proved effective against the Rus, Viking warriors who had established a state centered on Kiev. In 941, a Rus fleet attacked Constantinople, only to be met with Greek fire. The Byzantine historian describes the devastating impact: ships burning, sailors dying in flames, survivors telling tales of terror. Greek fire gave the Byzantine navy a technological advantage that no enemy could match. For centuries, the weapon remained a closely guarded state secret, giving the empire a crucial edge in naval warfare. Secrecy and protection. The Byzantines understood the value of their secret and took extraordinary measures to protect it. Knowledge of the formula was restricted to a tiny number of people. Operators of the siphons were kept separate from those who prepared the mixture. The complete formula was reportedly known only to the emperor and a few trusted officials. According to tradition, Emperor Constantine VII Porphyrogenes, writing in the 10th century, warned his son never to reveal the secret of Greek fire to any foreign nation. He claimed that an angel had delivered the formula to the first Christian emperor, Constantine, with instructions that it should never leave Constantinople. Any emperor who revealed the secret would be struck from the book of life. This injunction was apparently taken seriously. Despite the formula's military value, and despite the many opportunities for espionage and bribery, the secret of Greek fire was never definitively compromised during the Byzantine Empire's existence. What was Greek fire? Modern researchers have proposed numerous theories about the composition of Greek fire. None of them can be definitively proven, but several plausible candidates exist. Petroleum or naphtha almost certainly formed the base of the mixture. The Middle East had known sources of natural petroleum, and naphtha was used in incendiary weapons before Greek fire. However, petroleum alone does not explain all Greek fire's reported properties, particularly its ability to ignite on contact or expose on water. Quicklime or calcium oxide has been proposed as an additive that could cause water to intensify the flames. When calcium oxide contacts water, it produces an intense exothermic reaction. Combined with petroleum, this might produce the effects described in historical sources.
Other proposed ingredients include sulfur, saltpeter, resins, and various other substances known to the ancient world. The exact proportions and preparation methods remain unknown. Some researchers believe that Greek fire was not a single formula, but rather a category of weapons that evolved over time. Different mixtures may have been used for different purposes or by different operators. The decline and loss. Despite its effectiveness, Greek fire gradually disappeared from use. Several factors contributed to its decline. The formula itself may have been imperfect or unstable, requiring fresh ingredients that became difficult to obtain. The petroleum sources that supplied the weapon may have become inaccessible due to territorial losses or trade disruptions. As the Byzantine Empire declined, the resources and expertise needed to produce and deploy Greek fire may have become unavailable. The weapon required specialized equipment, trained operators, and secure supply lines, all of which became harder to maintain as imperial power waned. By the time the Fourth Crusade sacked Constantinople in 1204, Greek fire seems to have fallen out of common use. When the city finally fell to the Ottoman Turks in 1453, the secret appears to have been completely lost. Legacy and influence. Although the exact formula for Greek fire was lost, the concept of incendiary weapons continued to develop. Medieval Europeans experimented with various fire weapons, though none achieved the legendary status of Greek fire.
The Voynich manuscript, the book that cannot be read. In a climate-controlled vault at Yale University lies one of the most mysterious books ever created. Its pages are filled with flowing script in an alphabet that appears nowhere else in history. Its illustrations depict strange plants that no botanist can identify, astronomical diagrams that follow no known system, and curious drawings of naked women bathing in interconnected pools of green liquid. For over a century, the world's greatest code breakers, linguists, and cryptographers have attempted to decipher this enigmatic text. World War II code breakers who cracked the Nazi Enigma machine failed. Sophisticated computer algorithms have failed. Artificial intelligence has failed. The Voynich manuscript remains humanity's most stubborn, unsolved code. Is it a medieval scientific treatise written in an unknown language? An elaborate hoax designed to deceive? A work of madness with no meaning at all? Welcome back to Mysterious History, where today we examine the book that refuses to give up its secrets. Discovery and Provenance, 315. The manuscript takes its name from Wilfrid Voynich, a Polish book dealer who purchased it in 1912 from a Jesuit college in Italy. Voynich recognized immediately that he had acquired something extraordinary, though he never succeeded in deciphering it. The book's earlier history is partially documented. A letter found with the manuscript, dated 1665, reveals that it was once owned by Georg Baresch, an alchemist in Prague, who had spent years trying to decode it. Baresch wrote to the famous scholar Athanasius Pircher, sending samples of the text and pleading for help with the translation. Kircher, who claimed to have deciphered Egyptian hieroglyphics, apparently failed with the Voynich text as well. The manuscript may have passed through the hands of Holy Roman Emperor Rudolph II, who ruled from 1576 to 1612, and was famous for his interest in alchemy and the occult. Rudolph allegedly paid 600 gold ducats for the book, an enormous sum that suggests he believed it contained genuine secrets. Physical description, 630. The Voynich manuscript consists of approximately 240 vellum pages, though some are missing.
Radiocarbon dating has established that the vellum was produced between 1404 and 1438, placing its creation in the early 15th century. The text is written in an unknown script consisting of between 20 and 30 distinct characters, depending on how they are analyzed. The script flows from left to right, with clear word boundaries. The writing appears fluent and confident, not the hesitant work of someone inventing symbols as they went. The illustrations divide the manuscript into several sections. A botanical section depicts plants, none of which have been conclusively identified with known species. An astronomical section contains circular diagrams that may represent celestial phenomena. A biological section shows naked female figures in baths connected by elaborate plumbing. A pharmaceutical section depicts small containers alongside plant roots and leaves. A final section contains dense text with minimal illustration. The manuscript's pigments have been analyzed and found consistent with medieval European practices. No evidence of modern materials has been found supporting the authenticity of the physical document. Theories of meaning, 945. Theories about the Voynich manuscript fall into several categories. The most optimistic hold that the text is written in a genuine language or code that can eventually be deciphered. The most pessimistic suggest that the text is meaningless, created to deceive. Linguists who have analyzed the text have found that it exhibits statistical properties consistent with natural language. Words follow patterns of length distribution similar to known languages. Certain characters appear predominantly at the beginnings or endings of words, as letters do in actual languages. If the manuscript is a hoax, it was created with remarkable sophistication. Some researchers have proposed that the manuscript is written in an unknown natural language, perhaps one that has left no other traces. Others suggest it represents a constructed language, created for philosophical or occult purposes. Constructed languages were a genuine interest in the medieval and early modern period, with several examples known from this era. Cryptographic analysis. Professional code breakers have devoted serious effort to the Voynich manuscript. During World War II, American cryptographers who worked on breaking enemy codes attempted to crack the Voynich text without success. Since then, numerous other experts have tried. The manuscript does not behave like known cipher systems. If each Voynich character represented another language, statistical analysis should reveal the underlying language structure. Instead, the statistics of the Voynich text remain anomalous, fitting no known pattern precisely. Some researchers have proposed that the manuscript is written in a more complex encoding system, perhaps involving multiple levels of encryption or the use of null characters to confuse analysis. Others suggest that the text might be an abbreviated form of a natural language, with only key words written out. Modern computer analysis has added new tools, but not new answers. Artificial intelligence systems trained on the manuscript have produced various proposed translations, none of which have gained scholarly acceptance. The hoax hypothesis. Could the Voynich manuscript be an elaborate hoax? Several researchers have argued that the text is meaningless gibberish created to deceive a wealthy patron. The most commonly proposed hoaxer is Edward Kelly, an associate of the famous occultist John Dee. Kelly was known to deceive patrons with fake alchemical and occult materials. The theory suggests that Kelly created the manuscript to sell to Emperor Rudolph II, who was known to pay handsomely for mysterious texts. However, the hoax hypothesis faces significant challenges. Creating a fake text that mimics the statistical properties of natural language would require sophisticated understanding of linguistics that may not have existed in the 16th century. The sheer length of the manuscript, over 200 pages of text, seems excessive for a simple fraud. Recent research has shown that the manuscript could have been created using a relatively simple technique involving tables of words or syllables. By selecting from predetermined options, a creator could create text that appeared complex but was actually meaningless. Whether this was actually done remains unproven. The botanical mystery. The botanical illustrations in the Voynich manuscript have frustrated researchers as thoroughly as the text. The manuscript contains drawings of over 100 plants, none of which can be definitively matched with known species. Some illustrations appear to combine features from different plants, creating impossible hybrids. Others may represent plants that are now extinct, or that grow in remote regions that have not been thoroughly documented. Some researchers have suggested that the plants might be stylized representations that ancient readers would have recognized, but that modern viewers cannot interpret. Attempts to match the illustrations with plants from specific regions have produced conflicting results. Various researchers have proposed origins in Europe, the Middle East, the Americas, and Central Asia based on their interpretations of the botanical drawings. If the plants depicted are real, identifying them might provide clues to the manuscript's origin and purpose. If they are imaginary, this would support the theory that the manuscript is either a hoax or the product of an unusual mind. Proposed solutions, 1930. Over the years, numerous researchers have claimed to have solved the Voynich manuscript. None of these solutions have gained widespread acceptance. In 2014, a botanist and an information technologist proposed that the manuscript was created in the New World and written in an extinct dialect of Nahuatl, the Aztec language. They claimed to have identified some of the plants as species native to Mexico. However, other scholars found their linguistic arguments unconvincing. In 2017, a television history expert claimed the manuscript was a women's health manual written in an abbreviated form of Latin. He proposed that the naked women in the illustrations were actually nuns.
Göbekli Tepe, the temple that rewrote history. Everything we thought we knew about the origins of civilization was wrong. This is not an exaggeration. In southeastern Turkey, on a dusty hilltop overlooking the plains of Mesopotamia, stands an archaeological site that has forced historians and archaeologists to reconsider fundamental assumptions about human development. Göbekli Tepe is a complex of massive stone structures built approximately 12,000 years ago, 7,000 years before the Great Pyramid of Egypt, 6,000 years before Stonehenge. At the time of its construction, humans were supposedly primitive hunter-gatherers, incapable of organized labor, sophisticated art, or monumental architecture. Yet here stand elaborately carved pillars, some weighing over 15 tons, arranged in precise circular formations and decorated with sophisticated relief sculptures of animals and abstract symbols. The site proves that our ancestors were far more capable than we ever imagined, and its existence raises profound questions about what else we might have gotten wrong. Welcome back to Mysterious History. Today, we explore the temple that rewrote the history of human civilization. Discovery. The hilltop site had been known to local farmers for generations. The stones that occasionally emerged from the soil were assumed to be natural, or perhaps remnants of a medieval cemetery. In 1963, archaeologists from Istanbul and the University of Chicago surveyed the area, but dismissed it as relatively unimportant.
It was not until 1994 that German archaeologist Klaus Schmidt recognized the true significance of the site. Schmidt, who was surveying the region for the German Archaeological Institute, noticed that the stones were not natural limestone, but worked and shaped by human hands. What Schmidt discovered over the following years would transform our understanding of prehistoric humanity. Beneath the hilltop lay not one, but multiple circular enclosures, each containing massive T-shaped stone pillars arranged around even larger central pillars. The scale of construction was staggering, requiring organization and labor that supposedly did not exist at this early date. Schmidt dedicated the rest of his life to excavating and studying Göbekli Tepe. When he died in 2014, only a small fraction of the site had been uncovered. Radar surveys suggest that as much as 95% of the complex remains buried. The structures. The excavated portions of Göbekli Tepe reveal a sophisticated architectural tradition. The circular enclosures, which archaeologists call sanctuaries, range from 30 to 100 feet in diameter. Their floors are carved bedrock or carefully laid stone. The T-shaped pillars that dominate the sanctuaries represent stylized human figures. Though they lack facial features, they have arms carved in relief, bent at the elbows, with hands meeting at what would be the figure's belt. Some wear carved belts and loincloths. They appear to be representations of beings, perhaps ancestors, spirits, or deities. The carvings that cover these pillars are remarkable. Lions, wild boars, foxes, snakes, scorpions, cranes, and other creatures appear in relief, rendered with considerable artistic skill. Some scenes show multiple animals in apparent interaction. Others feature abstract symbols whose meaning remains unknown. The largest pillars stand over 18 feet tall and weigh between 15 and 20 tons. They were quarried from limestone outcrops several hundred meters from the site and transported to their current positions, all without wheeled vehicles, draft animals, or metal tools. Revolutionary implications. Why is Göbekli Tepe so significant? The site challenges the conventional narrative of human development in several ways. Traditional archaeology held that permanent settlements, agriculture, and complex social organization were prerequisites for monumental architecture. People first learned to farm, according to this view. Farming allowed them to settle in one place and produce surplus food. Surplus food freed some individuals from subsistence labor, allowing specialization. Specialization enabled complex societies, which then built monuments. Göbekli Tepe reverses this sequence. The site was built by hunter-gatherers who had not yet adopted agriculture. There is no evidence of permanent settlement at the site or in the surrounding area during the earliest period of construction. The people who built these monuments did not live there. They came from elsewhere for specific purposes. This suggests that religion, ritual, or social gathering may have driven the development of complex society rather than being a product of it. The desire to build and maintain sacred spaces may have motivated the transition to agriculture and settled life, not the other way around. The builders. Who were the people who built Göbekli Tepe? We know frustratingly little about them as individuals. They left no writing, and their bones have not been found at the site in significant numbers. We do know that they lived during the final stages of the last ice age and the transition to the warmer Holocene epoch. They hunted gazelles, wild cattle, wild pigs, and other game. They gathered wild cereals and nuts. They possessed sophisticated stone tools and probably clothing made from animal skins. They lived in a world that was changing dramatically. The climate was warming, ice sheets were melting, and environments were shifting. Whether these changes influenced their decision to build monumental structures is unknown, but the timing is suggestive. The labor required to build Göbekli Tepe implies a significant population and effective organization. Hundreds or perhaps thousands of people must have participated in quarrying, transporting, carving, and erecting the stones. They must have been fed, coordinated, and motivated, all without the governmental structures that supposedly make such efforts possible. Ritual and purpose. What was Göbekli Tepe for? The most common interpretation identifies it as a religious sanctuary, a place of pilgrimage and ceremony for the surrounding region. The T-shaped pillars may represent supernatural beings or ancestors. The animal carvings may have symbolic or totemic significance. The circular arrangement of pillars may have created sacred spaces for rituals whose nature we can only guess. Some researchers have noted astronomical alignments at the site, suggesting possible connections to celestial observations. Others have focused on the animals depicted, looking for patterns that might reveal the builders' belief systems. Curiously, the sanctuaries at Göbekli Tepe were periodically buried and replaced. After a period of use, each enclosure was deliberately filled in with rubble, and a new enclosure was built nearby or on top of the old one. This burial is why the site survived so well, protected under tons of fill for millennia. Why would the builders bury their own monuments? Perhaps the enclosures were associated with specific generations or leaders and were interred when those individuals died. Perhaps the act of burial itself was ritually significant. We simply do not know. Connections and context. Göbekli Tepe did not exist in isolation. Other sites in the region show similar features, suggesting a broader cultural tradition. Karahan Tepe, 50 kilometers away, has yielded comparable T-shaped pillars and carvings. Other sites await investigation. The period during which Göbekli Tepe was built corresponds to significant developments in human history. Agriculture emerged in this region, perhaps partly in response to the demands of supporting gatherings at sites like Göbekli Tepe. The first permanent settlements appeared. New forms of social organization developed. Some researchers have speculated about connections between Göbekli Tepe and later civilizations. Could memories of this early sacred complex have influenced the myths and religions of subsequent cultures? The idea is unprovable but intriguing. Ongoing research. Excavation and research at Göbekli Tepe continue. New enclosures are being uncovered, each adding to our understanding of the site. Scientific analysis of organic materials provide information about diet, climate, and dating. The Turkish government has constructed a protective roof over the excavated areas and developed the site for tourism. Thousands of visitors now come each year to see the pillars that stood in place while the pyramids, Stonehenge, and all of recorded history were yet to come. International teams continue to study the site using the latest technologies. Ground-penetrating radar has revealed the extent of the unexcavated portions. Photogrammetry has created detailed three-dimensional models of the carvings. DNA analysis may eventually reveal information about the builders themselves. Implications for history. Göbekli Tepe forces us to reconsider assumptions about prehistoric humanity. If hunter-gatherers could build monumental architecture 12,000 years ago, what else might they have accomplished that has left no trace? The site also raises questions about the preservation of evidence.
The pattern of mystery. What lost history teaches us. We have traveled through time and across continents, exploring some of history's greatest mysteries. We have descended into the depths where Atlantis may sleep, and climbed the pyramids that have puzzled generations. We have pondered the Voynich manuscript's indecipherable text and marveled at the precision of Stonehenge. We have watched Greek fire burn on water and searched for the lost Ark of the Covenant. Now, as our journey reaches its conclusion, we must ask, what do these mysteries tell us? Are they simply puzzles waiting to be solved? Curiosities for academics and enthusiasts? Or do they reveal something deeper about history itself, about the nature of human knowledge, about who we are and where we came from?
Welcome to the final chapter of Mysterious History, where we seek meaning in the patterns of the unknown. The limits of knowledge, 3 minutes. The mysteries we have explored share a common feature. They represent the limits of historical knowledge. Despite all our technologies, all our methods, all our accumulated learning, fundamental questions about the past remain unanswered. We do not know how the pyramids were built. We do not know why the Maya abandoned their cities. We do not know what Greek fire was made of. We do not know what the Voynich manuscript says. These are not minor details, but central questions about significant historical phenomena. This should humble us. We often speak as if the past is known, as if history is a completed story that we can read in books. The mysteries remind us that history is incomplete, that much has been forgotten, and that our confident narratives may be missing crucial pieces. The great historian Herodotus, writing in the 5th century BCE, was already aware of this problem. He noted that even events from recent decades were disputed, that eyewitnesses contradicted each other, that the truth was hard to establish even for contemporary events. How much harder is it for events separated from us by millennia? The pattern of loss, 6:15. Throughout our journey, we have encountered a recurring theme, the loss of knowledge. The Library of Alexandria burned. Greek fire's formula vanished. The Voynich manuscript's language was forgotten. The reasons behind the Nazca lines were never recorded in any way we can now understand. This pattern reminds us that knowledge is fragile. It requires active preservation. Languages must be taught. Texts must be copied, techniques must be practiced, or they will disappear. Our ancestors' knowledge did not survive automatically. Much of it died with them. Modern society is not immune to this process. Languages continue to go extinct. Traditional skills are forgotten as their practitioners die. Even digital information faces threats from technological obsolescence. The servers that store our data, the formats that encode our files, the programs that read them, all will eventually become obsolete. What will future historians make of our era? What will they not understand because the evidence has been lost or corrupted? Will they puzzle over our ruins as we puzzle over the past? The power of assumption, 9:30. The mysteries also reveal the power of assumption. Time and again, discoveries have overturned confident beliefs about what was possible or likely in the past. Göbekli Tepe proved that hunter-gatherers could build monuments. The Antikythera mechanism proved that ancient Greeks could create sophisticated mechanical computers. The discovery of Homo florensis proved that tiny human relatives survived until relatively recent times. Each discovery surprised experts who had assumed such things were impossible. This pattern suggests that we should hold our assumptions lightly. When we believe that ancient people could not have achieved something, we may simply be underestimating them. When we assume that a mystery has no solution, we may simply lack the evidence or the insight to find it. The history of science is filled with examples of consensus being overturned. Continents were assumed to be stationary until plate tectonics proved otherwise. The universe was assumed to be static until expansion was discovered. Assumptions are necessary for thinking, but they can also be obstacles to understanding. Yet, amid all the strangeness of the past, one thing remains constant: human nature. The people who built Stonehenge, who wrote the Voynich manuscript, who carved the Moai of Easter Island, they were human beings like us. They loved and feared, hoped and mourned, wondered and worshipped. The mysteries we have explored are products of human imagination, human ambition, human devotion. The pyramids required organization and motivation that we recognize as fundamentally human. The Nazca lines required artistic vision. Greek fire required ingenuity in solving practical problems. The Library of Alexandria required a love of learning that scholars today still share. This common humanity allows us to connect with the past, even when we cannot fully understand it. We may not know exactly why the Maya built their temples, but we recognize the impulse to create monuments that transcend individual lives. We may not know what the Atlantis legend represents, but we understand the longing for a golden age, a perfect world lost to time. The value of mystery, 1430. In our scientific age, mystery is often seen as a problem to be solved and ignorance to be overcome. We value knowledge and dismiss the unknown as merely the not yet known. But perhaps mystery has its own value. The unknown inspires curiosity, drives research, motivates exploration. If all questions were answered, would we still wonder? Would we still seek? The mysteries of history keep us engaged with the past in ways that settled facts do not. Mystery also creates space for imagination. When we do not know exactly how the pyramids were built, we can consider possibilities, weigh evidence, form hypotheses. This active engagement with the past exercises mental faculties that passive reception of facts does not. The future of the past, 17 minutes. The mysteries we have explored are not static. New discoveries continue to be made, new evidence uncovered, new theories proposed. The past is still being revealed. Technology plays an increasing role. LiDAR surveys reveal hidden structures beneath jungle canopy. DNA analysis identifies the origins of ancient peoples. Artificial intelligence processes vast amounts of data looking for patterns. Remote sensing detects features invisible to the naked eye. These tools have already transformed our understanding and will continue to do so. Sites that were impossible to excavate now can be mapped remotely. Texts that were too damaged to read can now be reconstructed digitally. Connections that were invisible to human researchers can now be identified by machine learning. Some of the mysteries we have discussed may be solved within our lifetimes. Others may remain mysterious for generations more. And new mysteries will certainly emerge as our knowledge expands and reveals new questions. What history teaches us? 1930. What finally do these mysteries tell us about history? First, that history is deeper than we often assume. Göbekli Tepe pushes back the date of monumental architecture by thousands of years. Underwater sites may preserve evidence of civilizations from before the end of the Ice Age. The past may be far more complex and extended than conventional timelines suggest. Second, that history is wider than we often acknowledge. Western education has traditionally focused on certain civilizations, Greece, Rome, Europe, while neglecting others. The mysteries remind us that remarkable achievements occurred everywhere, from Easter Island to the Nazca Desert, from Zimbabwe to Cambodia. Third, that history is fragile. Knowledge is easily lost. Civilizations rise and fall. Technologies are forgotten. Languages die. What we know is a fraction of what has existed. What survives is not necessarily the most important or representative. Fourth, that history is connected. The Nazca lines may relate to beliefs shared across South America. The Sphinx may connect to traditions spanning the Mediterranean. Greek fire borrowed from knowledge developed in multiple cultures. Human history is a web, not the series of isolated threads. Closing reflection, 22 minutes. As we conclude our journey through history's mysteries, we are left not with answers, but with a deeper appreciation for questions. The unknown past stretches behind us, vast and largely inaccessible, filled with stories we will never hear.
The secrets yet to come. Our exploration of history's greatest mysteries has taken us around the world and across millennia. We have examined ancient monuments, lost civilizations, vanished technologies, and undeciphered texts. We have seen how much remains unknown about our past and how new discoveries continue to reshape our understanding. But our journey would be incomplete without looking forward. What mysteries might the future reveal? What discoveries await beneath the earth, beneath the sea, in unexplored archives and unexcavated sites? What technologies might unlock secrets that have resisted all previous efforts? In this final chapter, we look ahead to the mysteries that may be solved and the new mysteries that will certainly emerge as humanity continues its endless exploration of the past. Welcome to the conclusion of Mysterious History. Technologies of Discovery. The tools available to researchers are advancing rapidly, opening possibilities that previous generations could not have imagined. LiDAR technology has already revolutionized archaeology in forested regions. By firing laser pulses through jungle canopy and measuring their return, researchers can map ground surfaces that are completely invisible from above. This technology has revealed vast urban complexes in Central America, Southeast Asia, and other regions where vegetation had hidden ancient remains. The potential is enormous. Vast areas of tropical forest remain unscanned. Each survey reveals new sites, new structures, new questions. What might lie beneath the Amazon rainforest, the Congo Basin, the forests of Myanmar? We are only beginning to discover. Ground-penetrating radar continues to improve, allowing researchers to see beneath surfaces without excavation. The detection of the void within the Great Pyramid, the mapping of anomalies beneath the Sphinx, these are just early applications of a technology that will become increasingly powerful. DNA analysis has transformed our understanding of human migration and ancestry. Ancient DNA extracted from bones and teeth reveal connections between populations separated by thousands of years and thousands of miles. As techniques improve and samples accumulate, our picture of human prehistory will become ever more detailed. Sites awaiting exploration. Countless archaeological sites around the world remain unexcavated or only partially explored. Resource constraints, political instability, and logistical challenges leave vast areas of historical terrain unexplored. Göbekli Tepe, as we have discussed, is estimated to be only 5% excavated. The remaining 95% presumably contains enclosures comparable to those already revealed, each potentially adding to our understanding of this crucial site. The waters around Egypt contain numerous known but unexplored sites. The Mediterranean's shallow coastal waters have swallowed entire port cities that await systematic investigation. Each site potentially contains artifacts, inscriptions, and structures that could fill gaps in our knowledge. In South America, the Amazon basin may hide extensive archaeological remains. Recent LiDAR surveys in Bolivia have revealed massive earthworks, raised fields, and settlement complexes dating back thousands of years. This suggests that the supposedly pristine rainforest may actually be a landscape shaped by intensive human activity. Undiscovered tombs. Among the most exciting possibilities for future discovery are the tombs that may still lie hidden. In Egypt, the Valley of the Kings may yet contain undiscovered royal burials. Ground-penetrating radar has detected anomalies near existing tombs that might represent sealed chambers.
The tomb of Nefertiti, the powerful queen of the 18th dynasty, has never been found, leading to speculation that she might be buried in a hidden extension of Tutankhamun's tomb. In China, the tomb of the first emperor, Qin Shi Huang, has never been opened. Historical accounts describe an elaborate underground palace with rivers of mercury and ceilings decorated with celestial maps. Soil samples have detected mercury contamination, lending credibility to the ancient accounts. Chinese authorities have chosen not to excavate, partly from respect and partly from concern that current technology cannot adequately preserve what might be found. Across the world, the tombs of notable historical figures remain unlocated. The burial places of Alexander the Great, Cleopatra, Genghis Khan, and many others have been sought without success. Any of these could potentially be discovered. Textual discoveries. Libraries and archives around the world contain documents that have never been properly examined. Medieval monasteries, private collections, and government archives hold manuscripts that scholars have not studied. New techniques for reading damaged documents have produced remarkable results. Multispectral imaging can reveal text that is invisible to the naked eye. Computer algorithms can virtually unfold scrolls that are too fragile to open physically. X-ray techniques can read rolled documents without unrolling them. The Villa of the Papyri at Herculaneum, buried by the eruption of Vesuvius in 79 CE, contained a library of philosophical texts that were carbonized by the volcanic heat. For centuries, these scrolls were too fragile to read. Now, advanced imaging techniques are beginning to reveal their contents. The potential prize is enormous. Lost works by major philosophers, unknown dialogues, writings that have not been read for 2,000 years. Similarly, the techniques used to recover text from palimpsests, manuscripts where the original writing was scraped off and the parchment reused, continued to improve. Works of Archimedes, lost speeches of Cicero, and other treasures have been recovered this way. How many more await discovery? Underwater exploration. The ocean remains largely unexplored. Deep-sea technology is advancing rapidly, but the vast majority of the seafloor has never been examined in detail. Rising seas have submerged countless coastal sites over the past 20,000 years. The continental shelves around the world, which were dry land during the Ice Age, potentially contain evidence of human settlement. Systematic exploration of these zones could revolutionize our understanding of human prehistory. Shipwrecks number in millions worldwide. Each represents a time capsule, preserving a moment from the past. While many have been explored, the vast majority remain undiscovered. New sonar technologies and autonomous underwater vehicles are making systematic searches increasingly feasible. The Mediterranean alone is estimated to contain thousands of undiscovered ancient wrecks. Each potentially carries cargo, documents, and artifacts that could illuminate ancient trade, technology, and daily life. Mysteries that may be solved. Looking at the mysteries we have discussed, which might be solved in the coming years? The Voynich manuscript may yield to artificial intelligence analysis. As language models become more sophisticated and new analytical approaches are developed, the probability of a breakthrough increases. Whether the text proves to be meaningful or meaningless, resolution seems increasingly likely. The construction methods of the pyramids may be clarified by new discoveries within or beneath the structures. The void detected in the Great Pyramid might, if investigated, reveal evidence of construction techniques or other secrets. Egyptian authorities have been cautious about invasive investigation, but non-invasive technologies continue to improve. The location of additional underwater cities seems virtually certain to be established. Technology for deep water exploration is advancing rapidly, and systematic surveys of coastal zones are revealing sites with increasing frequency. Yet for every mystery solved, new mysteries emerge. This is the nature of knowledge. The more we learn, the more questions arise. New discoveries will raise questions we cannot currently imagine. When Göbekli Tepe was found, no one was looking for 12,000-year-old monumental architecture by hunter-gatherers. The site did not answer existing questions, it raised new questions entirely. Similarly, future discoveries will open fields of inquiry that do not currently exist. We will find things we didn't know we were looking for, evidence of activities we didn't know occurred, remnants of cultures we didn't know existed. This is perhaps the most exciting aspect of historical research, the certainty of surprise. We cannot know what we will find because we do not